Okay, are we looking terrible? Are we afraid? Is it recession time? Because these are important questions we have to ask ourselves as we continue to position in the markets. So let me do a little Mr. Producer. We got all them hoes. Ready? Ready, Naeem? Ready, Naeem? Ready? There you go, Naeem. There's your chart. All right. We're going to get back to this trend line on Bitcoin. But first, let's look at equities. Okay, what are equities doing right now? Wow, would you look at that? So these demand and supply zones that I had drawn out on equities, the SPX, are playing out beautifully, okay? So we can even extend this down a bit to this low, okay? So all these news of tariffs going into place has thrown equity markets into a complete tizzy, all right? So we end up nuking back. So we had okay, we'll start with this. Okay, I'll show you some market structure and how to look at these sorts of things. So on equities in a macro sense, what we did basically is we had a failed breakout 3 times. Okay, so here's the level that we were trying to break out from. So we could do it from like right here. Okay. So this was our level to break out from, $6,100 on the SPX. So we had one attempt to break out, rejected, came right back into supply, bounced, came back into supply, bounced, third attempt. Okay, came back down into here. Third attempt at a breakout, failed breakout, we nuke. Okay, so this is important because this type of price action is something that you'll see pretty often whenever you get up into support and resistance. When you get a failed breakout, or on the contrary, a failed breakdown whenever you're at support, that shows that momentum is shifting and that market structure is going to break and start heading the other direction. Okay, so I'll give you an example. So at the previous all-time high on SPX, when we had this third failed breakout, that's when you knew, all right, shit's cooked, right? We're gonna get a pullback. And in December, this first top on equities was our top on altcoins and in crypto. Okay, so pay attention to this. So we had this failed breakout, and this is whenever on this down move and this pump right here in December, this is whenever altcoins and equities started pulling back. Okay, so that's whenever you should have looked to take profit if you were looking to exit the market at this point. Okay. So we draw back down into supply. We get a second failed breakout, third failed breakout. Okay, everything got cooked, right? Fine. So why did we know that at that point that's probably a good level to start taking profits or say, hey, let me get out of markets temporarily or at least de-risk because we're having these failed breakouts? Well, if you look at other breakouts, let's take a look what they look like, right? So for example, here was a previous all-time high. Okay. Here was a previous all-time high. We pull back. We try to break out. We failed. We come back. We try to do a breakout again. We fail, and then we nuke. Okay? It's a loss of momentum. You failed to break out at these taps of the all-time high. Over here, when you get to the all-time high, you actually broke through, came back, retested, okay, and then pumped back up. So this was the previous high after we broke this high, and then what we do, we pumped higher, okay? So let's take a look at this one. Give you another example. So here's the all-time high. We pulled back pretty harshly, okay, in August 5th nuke, that's why. But look at what we did whenever we came back up to the all-time high. We rejected once, okay, one time we rejected. We came back down. On the second attempt at a breakout, we actually broke out, created support here, and then we moved up higher. So on the second attempt, we broke through, okay? The issue presents itself whenever you get more than 1 or 2 or 3 failed breakouts because that's a loss of momentum, okay? That's right. So one failed breakout, this one, we hit it. All-time high, pull back, boom, we broke right through it. All-time high, we pull back, boom, we pushed right through it. All-time high, we pull back, boom, we pushed right through it. So the issue was then, okay, here's now the new all-time high we got to break. Pull back, boom, failed. Boom, failed. Now we nuke. Okay. So we're losing momentum. All right. So now that we've lost momentum due to these tariffs, what do we look like we're going to start doing here on the S&P? Okay. Let's look at that on this time frame. Okay. So here are our levels now. Let's get these out of here. So we played our supply and demand perfectly. We lost our supply. We came down to this demand, popped back up. Obvious place to short right here. Obvious place to long right here on a bounce. If you're playing leverage, okay, come back down. Now we're at the very bottom of this demand zone. This is a very important level to keep an eye on, okay? If we lose this demand zone, I've talked about this on the stream before. If we lose this demand zone and we, with conviction, come back down into here before a bounce like this, that's not going to look good, okay? Because now you're basically building a complacency shoulder, okay? Which a complacency shoulder, if you don't know already, means, well, basically the cycle is cooked and we're going to go back down, right? So it would look like something like that. So how do you know that's a complacency shoulder? Because it would be a head and shoulders, ready? So this would be, you could call this your shoulder, this the head, and this would be the other shoulder, right? So that's a complacency shoulder. So if we build something like this and we get this pump back up into this supply zone, right? After breaking further down into here, or even losing this level and coming back down into here, okay? That's a head and shoulders. That's not good. That means we're rolling over even further. So what does that mean for us? Well, if you get this shoulder to play out just how I'm drawing it right here, right? You get the shoulder, the head, the shoulder, then you want to be exiting on the retest of this supply and that rejection, okay? If we pump back up after dumping even further down into here or down into here, we come back up and we hit the supply zone, now we're looking at a complacency shoulder building, and if we start nuking off of that again, time to start cleaning up, all right?